everyone. I am Max. It's the RHMax channel, show, episode, all those things. I'm pumped today. I just did like 40 pull-ups. Like, seriously, I was like, Jake Sharpe is coming on the show. I got to get strong. I got to look strong. I got to be smart. I got to be sharp. Sharpie. I got to be very sharp today because we got him in the house. We're going to be talking about a lot of really fun stuff. I just came off my hangover from 100% uptime, the mental hangover of not even being able to clip it or thumbnail it yet because it happened happened like 14 hours ago. That was a great show. So yeah, you're welcome. We should have 2 mind-bending shows in a row within the same like 15-hour time span. So no pressure, Jake. No pressure, but no, I think Jake does well with pressure. He's I love his Twitter too. If you're not following already, follow him, and we'll get the info out too. Let's see. At NK knows. I believe that's the one. If you're not following him already, he had some very fun tweets, and he I don't know what his team does. They just like they clip all kinds of really good stuff. So if you're not following already, go there, follow him, do all that stuff, and also share the link. Like I said, share us, tag us on the Telegram, tag us on the Twitters, clip this stuff afterwards if you want to. I'll be clipping some of it as well. But man, what a show! Welcome, David James. Good to see you, man. Always good to see you. Always good to see you at 777. Yeah, what's up? That's for Jake. I remember that. Oak Heart's in the house. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming. We'll get to questions. Let's see, base clips. I see a question. We'll get to questions just in a few minutes. I want to get into a couple topics but queue them. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I will not forget about them unless we get like 200 people in here. And then I may have to skip a couple. That's happened a couple times actually. But I'll try to get all your questions. What's up, Dan? Welcome. Again, share it out. Excited for the show. We're going to get into a lot of different topics: PulseX, HEX, Ethereum forks, the wealth mindset. That's something I want to dig in with Jake as well, because he's got some interesting life hacks, interesting tips around a lot of that stuff. Again, you can follow him on Twitter and see all that too. But anyways, without further ado, he's itching to get in the show. Welcome to the show, Jake Sharpe.
Dude, your new intro is freaking fired.
Right? It gets you pumped up. It gets the people going.
It got me pumped up. I'm like, over here. Come on.
I saw you in the back screen. I was like, he's like bouncing his head. He must like this. Okay, it's good. Yeah, man.
100%. I'm excited for this one.
It was totally worth it. It was worth the wait. Markable. We worked together for a couple months, just like trying to, he'd send me a draft. Like, can you add this? What about this? Can you change this? And really patient with me. I appreciate all the things Markable did in this. And then we finally came up with something that I'm like, okay, I think this represents the channel, represents the brand, no monetization. We're here for Scivive. We're here for 5555. We're here for all that stuff. And that's really what I want to bring to the show. So yeah, that's how it came about.
Yeah, I'm actually putting my favorite song on in the background. It's Aim for Head Fallen. It has a very similar vibe. It's like this whole sci-fi, cypherpunk vibe. I love it.
Yeah, we worked on the music for a while too. And then finally it came down to dun, 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 and you got the tunnel and everything goes in. Yeah, that's really cool. So originally, I should do a segment on what the original one looked like. Original one had Hedron, it had some Maximus and different stuff. I'm like, I want to keep it, I love those projects, but I want to keep it just RH stuff for now. And I had some other things we changed around, but that was an interesting process to go through. I've never been through a media package deal with like a true artist too. Like he puts out some amazing work. So shout out to Markable. Everyone loves the intro, and it's all you, man. I architected a little bit, but that was all you from the hands-on keyboard type aspect. So, man, it's been a while. It's been, I think you came on in May or June, something like that, I believe. That was the first interview. And I want to say a lot has changed, but then also nothing has changed. It's funny, like the things we've been waiting on, the things we're really excited about, not much. I mean, there's a couple things we're going to get into as far as the, BSC and versus ETH2 and stuff like that. I know you want to talk about that. But as far as just, I don't know, maybe start with, give us a change, a lay of the land as far as Hexco goes. Anything in the last 3 months that's really came out where you're like, whoa, this has changed this aspect, or yeah, we're still kind of waiting on the details. What's give us the brief news update as far as things go.
So the main thing I'm focused on is the next bull market. Richard kind of confirmed the main idea when it comes to timing analysis. I've been saying it on my stream for a while, and I've actually first heard it on the stream with Richard Hart and the Martini guy. And that's like a stream, I think a year and a half ago or whatever. And they were talking about timing analysis. So I've just been focused on when is this bear market ending. And I posted this thing on my Twitter this morning where the 2 previous dips. So crypto is extremely correlated to the NASDAQ. Nasdaq in the previous correction went down 67. Went down 27%, and Bitcoin went down 67%. Now, in the second correction, which was a couple months later, the Nasdaq went down 20%, and Bitcoin only went down 27%. That's not acting like a leverage position. So I think we're getting very close to some kind of bottom, which is very interesting. And that kind of goes hand in hand with like, okay, we're almost a month away from the year from the double top. We're almost 440-ish days away from like the first top to the bottom. And historically, those timing things, because I think the biggest trap we can fall into in these markets is believing that this time is different. And the way you can get out of that is by pulling yourself out of all the news sources and out of all of the influencers on Twitter, opening up a chart or opening all of these indicators. Like one of my favorite guys to follow for like global crypto stuff is Benjamin Cohen. And if you look at all these indicators, this time is not different. Even though the world looks like it's exploding, but on the chart, ROI-wise, timing-wise, it almost looks the exact same. So I'm more leaning on that of this time is not different. Which is
interesting. Yeah, that's something I didn't even think of. The last few months, we've been looking for some signals. We've been trying to wait and see the macro environment, if it calms down or escalates and things. But yeah, as far as this time is different, as far as like what's, when the bottom's happening, we're definitely farther along than we were before. And, so do you think, I mean, as far as, I guess, what else do we need to see before we can see the bottom is in? Like, what else needs to happen?
Yeah.
Or is it Bitcoin calling it like, hey, it's, are we in the 60-day, somewhere in the next 60 days? What do you think?
I don't think we're at the exact bottom yet, but I think risk reward wise, we're in a very good zone. I do think we have one last leg down. Who knows how brutal that could be? Like 14K seems like a realistic target, and that could happen in the next month. Oh. I don't trust the support level of 20K in Bitcoin, because if you look at the previous cycle, I don't remember the year. I think it was like 20. Whatever, there was this one bear market where it was constantly bouncing off of this one level and then just trapdoor down. It could be that where we have one last leg down, but at that point, so many bottom indicators are kind of pointing towards, hey, that was the last capitulation. And I think that's when a hell of a lot of big money is going to start coming in. And then we, as part of like I had a voice crack there, with PulseChain, PulseX, HEX, we're in such an isolated bubble the moment PulseChain launches that it doesn't even matter what the market does. So if you launch anywhere close to the last capitulation or after the last capitulation, I don't think it matters, because by definition, new coins are not correlated to the market. So I think we're in the best possible place.
I mean, that's certainly it's been a strenuous bear market, to say the least. I don't think PulseChain, waiting on PulseChain has made it any better. But knowing that, hey, I mean, I've said this a few times, like we could have a mini bull run within our own ecosystem due to launches, things like that. HEX going down so much. I mean, I'm not saying it can't go lower, but at the same time, ROI wise, like you mentioned, wow, like look at this, look at the silver plate in front of you, look at the silver plate. It's amazing. So
I 100% agree. Then one thing I want to add on top of your statement is the only way you can have a high probability guess over the future price performance of something is by looking at the historical price performance. And in crypto, there's nuance to that. If the community is dead and the developers abandon the projects, no matter how good it performed, it's going to die. In this case, it's the exact opposite. During this bear market, we have an entire new L1 being built out. We have a DEX coming up. We have the ecosystem building. We have more creators coming on than ever before. Creators are picking up steam. Richard Hart went from 60K followers to 250K followers. There's so many damn bullish indicators where you're like, I feel like I'm buying dollars for pennies right now, and it makes me very happy.
Man, buying it, I just don't know. I don't know. I try to think about it very in a way that, the margin of safety, I try to really think about it in ways like that. And you should, you read any finance book, you want a margin of safety. You understand the investments that you put in. You're going to be able to, if something goes bad or whatever, you're still not going to lose as much you would if you would have bought it at a different time, all this stuff. But it just seems like such a good time. And then October, everyone said September is going to be terrible. Yeah, that kind of played out pretty well. It was not September. It's not a great month for anyone, I don't think. October, November.
My birthday is in September.
Hey, it was a good month for you. Good month for you. I'll say that. At least for that day or two or that week, however long you celebrate. But man, what do you think towards the end of the year? Do you think some tax stuff will be going on? Do you think that'll say we launch December, or say we launch March. Let's just say December for this. Like, do you think the tax implications play a role in this, or is that only for people who? I mean, there was billions of dollars in PulseChain and stuff. Do you think that affects anything?
That's a very good question. I've actually been thinking about that. I think, yes, if it launches in January, that's probably the best. I think the best move is documentary goes live, testnet v3 goes live after the documentary. Because in this whole investing ecosphere, it's not like people watch a documentary and then pull up Uniswap and buy. Like, there's an indoctrination period that happens in any kind of business where somebody comes in, they learn about the thing, they learn about the belief system, the value the creators, they get comfortable with it. Because we're talking about investing money here, not just your time. And I think if the documentary launches, a couple of weeks later, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, we have testnet v3. Maybe that lasts for like anywhere from like 1 to 4 weeks. It doesn't have to last long. And then we go to the official mainnet after like in January. That would be beautiful, because then nobody has to pay taxes on their sacrifices because there's no liquidity. It's a zero cost basis. Everything got sacrificed. So you cannot get taxed on it. So it's funny that you bring that up, because yeah, I do think it has an impact 100%.
Yeah, and that's you can see in the comments sometimes people saying, oh, it needs to launch at a certain time due to tax implications. But then you're like, if it's zero cost, then, I mean, I know a lot of times at the end of the year, especially in the bear market, people are selling to get rid of a lot of the losses, to lock in the losses, right? But with PulseChain, how does it factor in? If you don't have any gains, you don't have any losses. I don't know. What are the strategies around doing it? I guess I don't get that aspect.
Correct. One of the things I've been doing to prepare for the launch of PulseChain is I've actually switched tax jurisdictions. So I've actually looked deep into like how to position yourself tax jurisdiction wise, and there are ways to do it where you don't actually have to live in the country. I've been learning a lot about like these structure setups and legal setups, and like the way so my lawyer, it's like in Eastern Europe, right? So my lawyer is like, there are ways. He kind of says it like that. And it's like, yes. I have a renting contract in a country. So I live there on paper, and I exited my previous country. So now I'm a tax citizen in that country. And then I just rent wherever I am when I'm traveling. But on paper, I'm a citizen of that country, and the taxes are very good. I'm not going to say the tax rate because somebody can kind of reverse engineer it, but it's very good. And I kind of took this period of PulseChain, PulseX, the launch of that, to kind of position myself, because I'm not looking at whatever amount of money I put in. I'm looking at that times 250. And I'm like, I should not be stupid with this. I should have my legal structures in place. I should be prepared. I should have a plan for when this stuff happens, because in my mind, it's going to happen. I can speak with a lot of conviction because I'm this convicted in this bet. Like, conviction is very hard to fake, and a lot of people in the community have it, which is a beautiful thing for new people coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just how have you been dealing with it too? I think it's so easy waiting for launch, all this stuff. For me, it's just I try to practice just in life in general, not having an emotional response to a lot of things, to comments, to a lot of nasty things people say on the internet, all that stuff.
Yep.
People say a lot of good stuff too, and it's easy to be like, well, I should have an emotional response to that because that'll make me feel good. But also, I would say kind of try to limit that, because then you get into dopamine. You try to get in that cycle as well. So how do you? I don't know, for people out there struggling with PulseChain launch, all this stuff, how do you yourself, have conviction in the project, but also not be able to get overwhelmed with thinking about it and just keeping on your mind when there's absolutely nothing you can do to change it?
Yes, that's actually an incredibly good question. And that's one of the big reasons I also started the YouTube channel, just to keep myself busy. Because otherwise you're just there in your corner, like, I'm so happy I started it, because now I just have something to focus on. We have something to build. It's so much more fun having a thing that you can focus on. Yeah, because just focusing on PulseChain and focusing just in general, like focusing on stuff you cannot control, makes you very depressed. And I had that. I actually traveled the world for like a year. And that was like midway during like the PulseChain sacrifice. And that was like a couple months. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to travel, kind of forget about it. But then it took a couple more months and a couple more months. I'm like, maybe I should do something with my life again. And that's where the YouTube channel came from. So that's how I keep myself busy. I think it's important to have some project or something that you're focusing on.
Yeah, great time to learn how to code if you don't know. I mean, that's launching in a bear market seems to be a good thing. I launched a YouTube channel in the bear market. Seems to be going fine. Knock on wood so far. Keeping yourself busy with coding, traveling. there's also people I've been seeing. I think it was, who was it the other day that said they were stepping away? Oh, Johnny Chaos. I think said he was going to take a break for a while too. So just stepping away from the computer and just going out and doing something else, or stepping away from Twitter or whatever. Orca did it for a while. He changed his account and did things like that. I don't, I see that as healthy. I'm like, fine. Like that. I totally get it. Anyone wants to step away for a while, I totally get it. I even think about it myself sometimes. I'm like, I'm so engaged. I'm so much more a part of the community, again, in creating content, trying to create value, have utility. I love all that stuff too. But every once in a while, I'm just like, man, I think I should take like a month or two off. Like it's not that I'm stressed. It's not that I'm anxious or anything. It's just like, I don't know. I can totally see other people doing it and how that could be healthy for your life. So I guess the point of this is saying is like, if you feel overwhelmed with this type of stuff, if you feel like crypto is not being a net positive for your life, especially in a bear market where there's not a lot to do as far as trading and stuff goes anyways, no matter how many new projects launch every week that are revolutionary, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just take some time off. Like, you don't need to be around all the time. I can tell you it's all right. So, sorry, I didn't want to go on a somber note there, but I was just like, I know. The people who are struggling in crypto, to me, it's hard for me to relate because I just have this mindset. I want to get into that too. Just the wealth mindset, the wisdom mindset, just the healthy mental, physical mindset too, but just the ability to not have an emotional response to things, not let things bother you that you can't have no control over, keeping yourself busy to keep yourself energized mentally, physically, all this stuff. What are some of the things that you do? Maybe life hacks, maybe, I'll name a few of mine too, like maybe affirmations. Like I like really putting like my running stuff. I go on a run every day, exercise every single day in some way, shape, or form. Usually have a pretty strong routine, but what are some of the things that you do just to make sure that you are keeping in your best shape? Like you're meeting your own standards and like you don't need extra motivation from anything.
Yes, that's actually a great question, because I think the way somebody does one thing is how they do everything. And I've always kind of had this very obsessed mindset about everything. Like whenever I do something, I do it to the best of my ability. Like with my ex-girlfriend, I literally bought the Tony Robbins course on how to have the best possible relationship. Like that's the kind of person I am. I cannot do something half-assed. It freaks me out. So with working out, I kind of found the best way to work out, to be explosive, to have high energy, to have high energy all day long. Because one thing I learned about training is if you train short and intense, that becomes your working style. If you train slow, methodical, and over a longer period of time, you're a longer period of time worker. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And I've optimized my dating, I've optimized my life, relationships. If I do get into a relationship, I've optimized my health, my energy, my supplement stacks. And I kind of have this. So before crypto and this YouTube channel and all of this stuff and like the semi-retired thing, I was actually a peak performance coach to like millionaires for roughly 6 months.
Oof.
And it's very interesting because you start it is. And I kind of designed this system based on a couple books, Reality Transurfing, Psycho-Cybernetics, some of Tony Robbins' programs, and I think also some NLP stuff, courses I went through. And I kind of made my own system. I call it Evolution of Self. So one of the things that is very important for me because of my personality type, and I think a lot of us are the same personality type, I need to have a feeling of progression and something I'm aiming for. Because when it feels aimless, that's when you get depressed. You're like, why am I doing this? What is the meaning of life? And that's kind of the conversations guys like us get into.
Yeah.
So I have this ultimate vision of my life. What is the absolute ultimate vision of my life where I'm like extremely happy with my life, my social life, my social circle, my network, the things I'm building, the impact, my financial status, etc., etc. And I look at that every day. And days that I don't look at that is when I get very depressed because I don't know where I'm walking. And with this bear market, it's kind of like this conundrum where I can use the money I have now and build that life, but then I can also take that money and put it into the bear market. And right now, I'm just making the sacrifice of like, I'll travel here and there and stuff like that, but just all the capital is going towards the bear market because I can buy that life 100 times over in like 2 years. Because in some things in life, you definitely do need money. Like one of the things I want to start doing is exclusive social events where you just have like a bunch of your friends, a bunch of your brothers, and then you just invite a bunch of people over. You become like the big social network of the city that you're in. And you just have an amazing social life without having to drink, without having to go to nightclubs, without being exposed to like the dangers of the nightlife, especially if you have a bit of money and people know it. It's optimizing your life so you can have everything without putting everything at risk. And I've also been learning about a lot of stuff like trusts and tax optimization and just preparing. Yeah, I think lifestyle optimization is massive because once you kind of have a bunch of money, because I came to this realization, is when you have a bunch of money and you can do anything, but you choose to do nothing, that's even more depressing. Because you've been giving all of these resources and you're doing nothing with it. And then you're just like, you cannot use money as an excuse. You're just a loser. That's literally all it comes down to. It's 100% yourself. I
think that's tragic. If you were, people were to make all this money, and I think that's another thing too. People act like it's play money, but every single market cycle, every single cycle, you see the numbers, you see the chart, you see what it does, and every time you tell people about it, there's, oh yeah, that's not real. That's not real. It's been real. It's been real every single time. Why don't you believe it's real? Like, just because it's not happening at this single moment doesn't mean it's not real. I don't understand that either. So yeah, when you make the big pile of money and then you sit around, like you said, like, why would you, like, what is the point? I guess maybe some of your thing too is like, people have a plan with what to do, look in the future and understand like how you are today, you're going to be different in 1 or 2 or 3 years if you make the right decisions. And if you don't make the right decisions, you're probably still going to be different, but not in the way that you want to be different. So like, just planning ahead and just like, everyone's got busy lives. If you could just set aside some time and just be like, this is important to me. As I did a short the other day, when you say I don't have time, that just means it's not a priority. That's something Naval says all the time, the person I follow a lot. So it's like, it just means it's not a priority or not a high priority for you. So anytime you say, I don't have time, just acknowledge it in yourself. Just like put yourself in debug mode for a minute and be like, this is not a priority to me. If don't have time for it, is not a priority. And if you have time for your finances, your future is not going to be set up the way you want it to be. You're not going to own your time. At least I'll say that.
I love that. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because there's just people, and when it comes to life, it's not making the most amount of money as possible. Because I follow this guy, Alex Hermosi, and the thing he always says is, once you have a lot of money, you start getting obsessed with having a lot of money. But then what happens when you die? Maybe because I'm done 26 in September. And what if I die at 30? And I die with all of this money and no impact and no good lifestyle. I was just waiting for the future. At some point, like the way I was kind of taught in one of the masterminds I was a part of like 2 years ago, is the way the guy sets up his finances. So I met him when he was worth like 7 million, and now he's worth like over 100 million, and he didn't touch crypto. That was all business and real estate. And the thing he taught me was cash is trash. And the amount of money that he keeps on the side is he keeps 6 months of living expenses on the side. So whatever your living expenses is, he keeps 6 months in your personal bank account or wherever you want to store it. You can also store it on the blockchain if you don't trust banks. And 12 months of business operational expenses. If you have that, every dollar above that should either be invested in yourself, coaching programs, masterminds, or the market, or real assets, or crypto, or whatever it might be. Because just having a bunch of money, and also just like a percentage of everything that goes above that stack, maybe like you invest 70%, and 30% you are forced to spend on living your life. And I think that's a beautiful way of approaching it.
Well, it's just around me too, people who, all the businessmen, all the money, all the thing, at least in America too, everything's about, the boomers own everything, which is a weird conversation. It's like, yeah, I mean, did they steal it from anyone? Like, I don't know why everyone has such a big problem with that either. But at the same time, it's like, they have all the wealth now. What do you think, the big shift, a lot of people are saying, they're retiring, that may trigger a bunch of market conditions as well. But what if, I guess, how much percentage do you think of that capital will go into living expenses? How much do you think will go into, some risk on assets such as crypto? What do you think of the boomers coming into the space, or do you think they'll come in at all?
That's a good question. I think boomers, it's very hard if you've been doing something one way for your entire life to change it. So they have to have an extremely open mind to be open to crypto. I think the way I kind of look at crypto is our version of real estate. Because back in the day, the boomers or whatever, when they were our age, they were able to buy houses for like 50 grand. And now they're like, the same house is like 750 grand. And they got 5 to 10% on their savings account in the bank. They operated in completely different financial environments. And I think crypto is like real estate 2.0, and crypto is like the stocks 2.0. I think crypto is all the way out. And you see like the amount of millennials investing in crypto is so goddamn high. It is all the way. This is all a wealth generation event, and it's not going to be real estate like the older people or the more experienced people or whatever you want to say without sounding condescending, obviously. But I think once you've kind of just you've worked a job, you worked a high-paying job, you put all of it in your 401k. The thing I was the most afraid of, which is why I got so obsessed with this financial game, is I just don't think retirement is going to exist by the time I'm old. I think the system is going to collapse because it's already hard to support all of these people. So I just took personal responsibility, and I was like, my retirement is not going to be there. How do I act from this position? And that's why we found the beauty of decentralized finance. We create our own retirement. Magic internet money.
Yeah, you got RH's quote: "Our magic internet money is better than your magic internet money." Yeah,
100%.
Comes to mind. Yeah, I like boomers. I mean, I say it. I'd say it in a way that I mean, they like freedom. They like I like a lot of the values that came from that. A lot of the investing acumen too that they have. Yeah, I like boomers. Hopefully they'll figure crypto out, and hopefully they'll be. I don't know. I'm S&P 500. I don't know if they're going to benefit from boomers coming up from the big retirement, but crypto might. You never know. We get this question too. Our behavior is not just financial rewarding, enhancing our future selves. Yeah, that's a good one too. Of just like, I mean, I wanted to ask the question. I kind of frame this for the way I want to ask the question too. What makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise? Is that trying to do everything we can to make sure our future self thanks us for that? Like what, I guess, what is the best way to make sure in the future, what you're doing now really translate well for you in the future? I think it's one way to look at it.
Ooh, that's a good question. I like the thing that Richard said. I don't remember what he said it, but it stuck with me. And the thing he said was, whenever you make decisions, like in business as an example, you have it's this thing called half-life, not the game, but like half-life of your decisions. When you talk to somebody one time over a conversation, it happens one time. If you record a YouTube video, that thing has a hell of a long half-life. People can find it through search results, etc. So the same time and the same decision has a longer half-life. And I think the more decisions we can make, like for instance, investing in a supplement stack, maybe it costs like $60 a month, but now your minerals, your vitamins are all on point, and you actually have your hormone levels are good. And I'm not talking about steroids and stuff, just like simple supplements and minerals. And you design that supplement stack once, you get your blood work done, and then that decision helps you for the rest of your life. I think the more we focus on making decisions where it's long half-lives, whether that be recording a YouTube video instead of talking to one person one time, instead of taking supplements one time and not writing it down and not having a stack, just have a stack that you constantly reorder and you make it a habit. I think long half-life decisions. And then the second thing he said was default or life decisions. I like that a lot. Where if you make a decision and you stick to it, by default, you should be winning. Or at least you should stay alive. When you play these shitcoin games, it's default lose because they pump once and then they die. So if you make the move and then forget about it, you default lose. In crypto and in the stuff that we're in, because of the tokenomics with PulseChain, PulseX as an example, buy back and burn, deflationary, by default, through math, you should end up being more alive even if you did nothing. So I think making long half-life decisions and making long half-life investing decisions, I think it's going to be good. Same thing with real estate. It's going to provide rent. It's going to go up in price. Now I think crypto curb stomps real estate. But it's just making long half-life decisions and trying to focus on making more of those and building systems around it. Like one example, like with your social life as an example, if you want to do these exclusive events, you can have a virtual assistant, use your Instagram account, and he sends out messages to everybody in the city, like all the cool people in the city. And then you have these open threads and open conversations with everybody. And Michael Sertain was the one that said this on the interview with Richard. That's a big half-life decision where this decision will last for a long time. You're building connections, you're building a cool network, people are starting to know you, and that's going to pay off in the long term. I think, it's a form of delayed gratification.
Well, compounding too. That's what came to mind of making these decisions. I've seen so many people, I got a lot of friends who I think everyone looks around every once in a while, like, okay, who, at least subconsciously, like, where are we at? Where, like, who's doing better than who, like that sort of thing. Even if you don't play status games, you're kind of always like comparing yourself to other people. So
it's very depressing.
So what is a better way to see where you are in life? That may be a good question from that too. If you're not comparing yourself to people.
That's an amazing question. So the place I'm in now is very different to the place I was. I actually had a bankrupt business and I was 50K in debt. And then comparing myself, because I was in business at that point, I think for 2 years. We had a nightlife event company. And one of the events went bankrupt and we still had contracts with these big artists. So they forced us to pay 50 grand. Well, we had zero a month coming in. Like this was our entire baby, everything that we built. All of our money went into it. And nightlife events business sucks. The business model sucks. Profit margins suck. Like at the end of the events, we would actually almost have to fight people to get out. Like in the city I lived, like people would literally come to our events just to start fighting people. So we would literally have to like kick dudes out together with our security team at the end of the events. And I was like, why am I doing this to make like 15 grand at the end of the night? And it took me like 2 months to prepare for the event, et cetera, et cetera. I was just like, there has to be a better way. But yeah, we went 50 grand in debt because we had to pay the contracts, or honor the contracts is a better way to put it. And I was good. I was smart. I was just as smart as I am now. I know a lot more now, but I was just as smart and just as diligent and disciplined. But comparing myself at that point, like the guy working at McDonald's was wealthier than me. So I kind of had to make these like mental construct of like not comparing against anything other than myself. Because when you I'm a big believer in the information that you put in is the result that you get in life. Like if you try to bake a cake with garbage, no matter how good of a cook you are, it's not going to taste good. And same thing, if you want your life to be amazing, you have to listen to amazing information. If you're consuming the news, if you're consuming all of these toxic Twitter accounts, if you're consuming everything that is negative, you have a negative input. And by definition, a negative input cannot become a positive output. And where was I going with that? It's just you have to filter your information sources. And by doing that, by default, you should be listening to people that are ahead of you. And if you compare yourself against them, it could be very depressing. Like if you compare yourself against rich, you're like, man, I don't even have a penny in my bank account compared to him. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like this comparison thing is like, it's interesting.
I think there could be a healthy way of envy though too. I think envy can be used, and everyone uses it in a negative connotation. But I think if you see, people can be inspiring. For example, Richard, to me, yes, if you start comparing yourself, you should never do that. But if you're like, I want to be, I want to be that rich guy. I want to be that guy who can do anything, who doesn't owe anyone anything, who doesn't need to show up on time when they don't want to. Like they set their own schedule, all that stuff. But how do you get there? One thing I found helpful, and everyone can do this. Take a look around. You don't have to compare yourself to other people, but if you look around at your friends and family and everyone else in your life you communicate with, and you see all the actions they're making, and you see you watch them compound. If you watch them for the last 10 years or so, you see you see a lot of decisions they make, the house they buy, the car they drive, all this stuff. And then are they working? Are they coding? Are they doing a side hustle? Have they stayed at the same job this entire time? Do they have any ambition outside of just, retire at 60 and hopefully be okay? All those type of things. Are they making decisions that compound in a positive direction? Or are they making decisions that compound in a negative direction? Because I look around sometimes and I see a lot of the people I care a lot about, and I see them keep making the same bad decisions or the decisions that don't lead them anywhere, but more of what they're already getting already. They're not going up. They're either staying the same or going down. So compounding in a positive way, that's the way I found to start, not comparing yourself to other people, but to start elevating yourself in that way.
Yes, 100%. I like that. The thing that I kind of noted down here is I think the biggest differentiator, because I'm a big believer in not judging people on where they are, but on where they want to go. And one of the things you can see, there's two things, and I tweeted about this today actually, is when you look at most people in the eyes, there's no fire left. They have no passion. There's no that zest about them. Like, I want to do something with my life. I want to build things. I want to build a beautiful life, whether that be with the family, whatever it might be. Everybody has different motivations. It's just like this thing. I think it's very intrinsic to people where you're like, I'm not comfortable here. Like when I was a software engineer, I'm like, I am not comfortable here. This is not going to be my life. And I think what was the saying again? I think it was, I like the saying a lot. You get what you tolerate. If you tolerate your life, if you tolerate being fat, if you tolerate being lethargic, low energy, having no financial future, making the investment decisions, being a degenerate in crypto, it's as long as you're comfortable with that lifestyle and that version of you, it's all you're ever going to get. Like if somebody disrespects you and you're like, I'm cool with it, well, guess what? You're going to get disrespected forever and ever. At some point, you're going to have to put your foot down. If it gets physical, it gets physical, but you have to draw the line. Like, I'm not tolerating this. And that applies to everything in your life. Like whenever I don't see my six pack, I freak out. I am uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm slacking. I'm not doing my diet. I'm not going to the gym. This is not who I am. I am not comfortable here. This is changing, period. And I think it's this, they call it internal barometer, where like, and this comes back to like having this absolute dream version of myself being built out. And that's what I'm constantly comparing myself against, the ultimate version of myself. And I'm like, this is not what this guy is doing. So I should stop doing it, because that's not going to get me to where I want to get to. And I'm not comfortable here. I'm comfortable over there. And just the closer you can get to that, the better. And it takes a hell of a long time. I think the missing variable in everybody's equation is not the fact that they don't work hard. It's not the fact that they're not doing the right things, which is obviously a big part. It's just time. Time is a variable that everybody misses. I kind of hit my escape velocity point where like the yield on my investment funds my lifestyle, where then you have more breathing room to actually invest into stuff, right? Whether that be with your time and energy. It took me 5 to 6 years to get to that point. And in those 5 to 6 years, it just kind of felt stagnant. Like with the financial situation, there's a saying where when it rains, it pours. It seems very dry for a long period of time. And then when things click, they really click. They really click. And it's never this linear thing where you have like 10 grand in the bank, 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. You're never going to get there. It has to be through some exponential curve. And that's maybe figuring out a different business model, or investing into the right thing, or going into a different way of living life, or whatever it might be. Because there's also ways to arbitrage. Like if you're living in a high expense city in the US, just moving to Eastern Europe in one of these low cost cities, even though you're earning 7 grand a month, maybe remotely, well, now you're a king. So there's a bunch of variables that you can play with. And I think Alex Ramosi was the one that said this, is wealth is relative. Like depending on what your lifestyle expenses are, if you're living in Silicon Valley and you pay 10 grand a month in costs and you make 12 grand a month, you have 2 grand a month net. But if you're making 10 grand a month working remotely and your cost of living is 2 grand a month, now you're a hell of a lot more wealthy, even though you're making the same amount of income. Damn, those were a bunch of topics.
It's great. I just wanted to synthesize too. I like the just going back a few minutes ago about not comparing yourself to other people. Maybe it's don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to the best version of yourself that you can think of, and then that's how you keep climbing to know if you're there or not. I like that. I like that a lot. I got to get to questions because there's a few questions here. Excellent stuff, man.
I have time.
Jake is hyped today. Jake is super hyped. He's talking. Somebody said, I thought Jake's was speaking at 5x speed until I heard Max talk. I was like, am I talking really slow? Or is he talking really fast? But I kind of sped I sped it up a little bit. I think I was talking slow at first. I just consume. Everyone, if I'm speaking slow, it's because I'm like consuming, like at the same time. I'm like, I don't know. I do this thing where I'm thinking, consuming at the same time, and that makes no sense. But that's why I'm speaking. I'm speaking slow. But if I have a topic off the tip of my tongue that I really want to get out there, and I've already got like a prepared thing in my head about it, of course I can speak faster. But anyways, does make any difference. Base Clips, hey, question for you both. I'm considering learning to code. Curious, what is it that most people quit coding and abandon? Is it worth doing, or am I missing something? What do you got, Jake?
Oh yeah. So the reason I actually became a software engineer is because I watched this interview. Like this was before I ever touched coding. I watched this interview from Steve Jobs. And he said something, I don't remember anything, except for this one thing. And the thing that he said was, if you want to learn how to think, learn how to code. And for whatever reason, that just clicked with me, and I got obsessed with coding. I think coding is a means to an end. At some point, you can just hire people to code because there's better use of your time. Yeah. In some cases. But I think learning coding I think coding is 95% problem solving, 5% syntax. Writing the actual language is by far and away the easiest part. The hardest part is problem solving and building the actual system that you want to code down on paper. Like, you probably know this. Like, as like an engineer, you have these, like I used to be back in the day, you would have these stickers on the back of your laptop. And one of the ones I had was like a code, think twice, code once. Yeah, and I'm a big believer in
like
that.
Think twice, code 5 times, and have 4 betas. But I get the point.
Or think 100 times, code once.
Yeah, yes. It's not. I think that's really an advantage I had growing up too. It's just learning how to code from a young age. It makes you a pragmatic thinker. It makes you be able to put these things in steps, and you can apply that in life in so many different disciplines. So if you learn how to code at an early age, or even later on too, you can still have a lot of benefits from it. But especially if you learn as early as you can, it's just going to help you be like a more functional human being. It's just it really opens your eyes, makes you think better. Like, who doesn't want to think better? I think that's such a it's almost turning into a meme. Like, oh, you should think better. This stuff why should I watch this? You'll think better. who doesn't want to think better? Like I know you can dispute what the material is and, oh, do I trust the person? And that's why I don't watch it, all this stuff. But if you don't think that thinking better is a good thing, like, why are you, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't think that, I think you should reconsider. Thinking better is a very good thing. That's where all these mental models and stuff come into play, and coding, for example. Just scrolling down.
One of the big things I took away from coding, which I still implement to this day, is this idea. I think Elon Musk calls it first principles, is where, let's say, I'll use a fun example for like building a social life, or like a bunch of hot girls and stuff like that. If you want to take everything down to its component parts. When you want to build a big social circle, there's only a couple things. So you want to reduce complexity and reduce all the preconceived views on stuff. So when you want to build a network, what do you have? You have modes of communication to getting in touch with these people, and then you have the environment in which you meet them in person. So if you want to build a system to optimize your social life, you could literally hire an assistant to send out a bunch of messages because it's communicating, and then building the best possible environment, whether that be like a nightlife event or some event everybody comes to that already gives you status in that event. So it's like just taking everything down. It's reaching out to people and building a cool event. But if you start from like listening to everybody, it sounds like this very complex thing. But then when you boil it down, it's just like communication and physical environment. And I think, and then building system from that point, I think is very good. First principles thinking.
First principles thinking. I mean, that's literally my Twitter bio. First principles thinker, like thinking from the ground up to solve problems. Like it's the most effective thing. Like if you want to be an effective human being, you need to think from first principles. Like you can't just. So it's basically taking feedback from reality instead of society. Like everyone says, oh, rockets. You know, the Elon Musk example. Rockets are too expensive. You'll never get the price down. The company will never work. Blah blah blah. And he's like, hey, what are rockets made of? What do materials cost? Okay, let's go source those materials at a cheaper cost. Can we do that? If so, we can make all this stuff work. It's just, I mean, it almost sounds like common sense, but nobody does this. Everybody wants to take that shortcut in their brain, and they don't have to think about it. Like just like, and it applies to crypto too. All these different projects. Instead of the easiest thing to do is have shiny object syndrome. And that's what 99% of people do. And maybe they backstep after they see, oh, this FUD came out, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at a project and say, okay, let me break it down, like it's just the research portion, and look at it that way. But nobody wants to do that.
I 100%
anyways,
agree.
Has he ever tried adrenochrome?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, I heard that. I think when you're talking about nootropics or something a bit ago. Jake, question: do you know? Oh,
interesting.
If you're gonna take a note or Google it.
Yeah. So when it comes to these supplements and stuff like that, I don't like messing with my natural biology. So the thing I supplement with is actually very basic stuff. If you want, I can actually pull it up. I think I have it somewhere.
Okay.
It's not gonna take me long. I think everybody will find this helpful.
Yeah.
And it's not crazy stuff. Let's see. I hear you. So the ones I use, everybody can list this or watch the replay. Is a simple multivitamin, vitamin D3, magnesium and calcium, omega-369, and then a combination of kelp, lecithin, B6, and apple cider vinegar. Then vitamin D3, fenugreek, boron, creatine, garlic extract, and ZMA. That's just like basic vitamins and minerals, because back in the day, like everybody's like, oh, but you can get that naturally in your food. But I'm like, no, because the way people got food back in the day is not the same way that we get food now. The grounds are not nutritious at all. It's everybody needs to get their blood work done, and then you'll see like, oh crap, it's almost impossible to get the stuff from your diet, because if you want to have the perfect diet where you get all of the minerals and all of this stuff and all of this, it's impossible, dude. You cannot get it out of your food. So the only way to do it is to supplement. I take 10 to 12 different supplements every day. And like almost every high performer I know, and business person and investor, and just people who want to kind of live life all out, they all take supplements because they want their health to be healthy. And I think one of the worst states a person can be in is being lethargic and low energy, because even me, and this sounds so anyway, such a big ego.
You're wearing a blazer, say it.
Yes. Well, you have this as well. Like when you're sick, you're like, I don't want to do anything with my life. I'm demotivated. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to get out of bed. So everybody knows if you're low energy, your life just sucks. So optimizing energy is probably like priority number 1 by far and away. And the moment you get more energy, you'll notice your relationships are better. Your life is better. You have more energy. You do more stuff because you're more motivated. I think that's massive, dude.
Maybe that's a good analogy too, that like, 99% of the people in the world are just sick, like sick in the way of like they can't get out of bed to do something kind of sick, not the, like
Yes.
disease wise. And the 1% are the people who figure out, like they take the vitamins, they take the, they eat the right food, they eat right, they exercise, they do all this stuff, and they become that better version of themselves. Yeah. I like that.
It's okay. I want to add something on top of that because this is very helpful.
Mhm.
So you have physical diet, but then one thing I'm kind of pushing in the community, which is something I actually learned from the $7 to $100 million guy. He said that you have a physical diet, but the more important thing by far and away is your mental diet. What do you allow into your mind? Because if you allow into your mind, crypto is crashing, the stock market is crashing, the financial system is crashing, it's doomsday, it's going to be end war. I don't want to say it for like algorithm, but everything is happening. The world is coming to an end. If that's the only thing you let into your mind, imagine this. That's basically the junk food, but then for your mind. And if you feed junk food into your body sucks. If you feed junk food into your mind sucks. And then if you have a negative worldview as well, that's just a negative spiral downwards. I think filtering your information and then filtering what you put into your body is by far and away the two most important things you can do in your entire life. It's especially the mental diet part.
I think a good number of minutes you should spend watching the news per day is 0 to 5 or 0 to 10. Like if you just want to stay informed, you got some show that you like and you like to cast on there, you trust them to give you objective views, that's fine. But even then, like just don't spend more time doing it. It's not going to help you. Like as Richard says, no one has ever like changed their mind or made a decision on something because they watched the news. There's no actionable advice. It's just stuff to get you to care about something that you probably can't do anything about anyways. So just
I actually just dropped my water.
Oh, you dropped your water?
Yep. I'm just checking if there's no electronics, but it seems to be fine.
All right, you got a water supplement beside you can take to make up for it?
It's actually tap water, kill me.
Oh, actually, hey, there's better and worse tap water. I know a lot of people, if you live in the right area, you can get some good tasting water, but otherwise, yeah, most of the world does not though. I agree. Scroll through questions real quick before we move on.
I like that saying. Riskino says it. Yeah, really strong point. Meditation is like fasting for the brain. Fasting for the brain. I like that.
I do like that. Yeah. And meditation too. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to set aside 30 minutes or an hour to sit alone and do all this stuff. You can meditate. I mean, you can do like, I guess I would call it mini meditations where you're in the shower. You just close your eyes. Yes. You just clear your mind. You go do a massage. If you like massages and stuff, you just like lay on the table. You just don't think about anything. And you let your body just like relax and stuff. So, got a question from GRFX. Someone has an idea on paper. So if someone has an idea on paper, it's relatively easy to code. Well, a lot of times you have the idea on paper, and then from there, I guess we could talk about the process of like, okay, you have an idea.
Take it. I'll look in a sec. You take the topic. Yeah. I have to look at the water. Give me.
Oh yeah. Seconds. No worries. Take your time. So a lot of times when you're wanting to make a project come to life, first you start with an idea, as you have for this example. Then you try to figure out, okay, does it, maybe you do product market fit, maybe you see like, does it make sense? Is it practical? You kind of do some research around that. And then if you decide that it's practical, or if you decide it's not practical, or, it's the technology doesn't exist, I don't have enough resources, whatever it is, then you try to pivot and say, okay, like, well, how can I make this? Like, what is the next level? Like, what is there something else that would make sense around this? And then, get all this stuff out of the way. Eventually, if you come up with an idea that is practical, that can work, that is a good idea, that has all this stuff, then you start researching like, okay, what kind of frameworks do I need? What kind of language do I write it in? What kind of services do I need to build around it or use? Does it need to be cloud native? Is it a web app? Is it a command line app? Is it, does it live, in Web3? Does it live in the blockchain? All this type of stuff. Do I need a smart contract? And then I need a dApp. There's two different parts to it. And then you try to figure out, okay, what technology am I going to use? Do I need to hire devs? Am I going to code it myself? How quickly can I learn? What resources do I need to do that? And then, you do the beta, alpha, like you run some tests, you get some feedback from people. That's really helpful as well. And then eventually, you get to a product. So that's like a 2-minute summary of like how it goes from idea to paper to code. What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I think it depends on, because like with the blockchain, the biggest risk you have is, okay, code, because it's immutable. But then also legality is like the biggest risk you have in crypto, because imagine launching a token and then the rules change 5 years from now. And now you have this token linked to your name, essentially into infinity. So let's say you're worth like a couple 100 million or whatever, like maybe 10, 20 years from now. You're worth a couple 100 million plus. You're living your life, you're living your dream life, everything is fine. But then you have this token up your ass forever. And maybe the IRS after you, or the SEC, and there's some company formation you could do in multiple jurisdictions. But it's just like this idea that it's immutable. I think a token is a massive, massive commitment. One of the benefits you have about the blockchain is that when it comes to computation and processing, the blockchain is just a database. So coding on the blockchain is actually a lot easier than coding an actual web application, a mobile app, whatever it might be, because most of the computation and most of like the actual like stuff that happens already happens on the blockchain. Basically, all you have to design is mathematics and fail safes and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just legalities.
Yeah.
That's like my biggest fear when it comes to starting a project in crypto.
Yeah, you see the 0x weight guys who are trying to do the fiat on ramp for stuff, and I talked to them extensively, and off screen and on screen, and they're just like all the legal stuff. They're actually going through the process to get this type of stuff working is so much legwork, so many meetings, so much time and effort. It's depending on the project you launch, like it may require a lot of you, and it may require you can outsource a lot of it, but I don't know. Some of this stuff can blow up pretty quick. I'll say that. Somebody said started coding with C++, so it's made it. Wake dog is Satoshi. I like it.
Confirmed.
I like it. Yeah, actually, C++. If you're old school, you probably started something in that area. And then these days, it's easier to learn Python or learn Go or Ruby or if you're doing smart contracts, obviously those languages too. Node.js, JavaScript. The whole web stack is kind of taken over these days too. All right, you have considered stoic nature to you. Thank you. Appreciate that. I do. That is my not have an emotional response to everything and helps me to speak a little clearer, I think, too. Yeah, I hope not to be boring. I try to balance that with not being boring too. I get hyped up sometimes. I'll start doing some wow. I'll start doing some like fake stuff too. At any moment, I could just go nuts. I could. We'll see. Let's see. Scrolling again. All right.
I love when people call me Jack.
Jack, like Jack.
Yeah, they
Jack
say Jack
jacked up.
Jake.
I like it.
Yeah.
We'll get on. We'll go through this quickly. What are your thoughts on the Zen drama? Yeah, Jake, what are you gonna take a stab at that?
I don't think there's any drama. People take a small thing and they turn it into an elephant because it's a bear market. Dude, it's nothing. He just said, okay, the OA is not good because it doesn't get on exchanges that way. I'm like, okay, that's a fact, not an argument. Everybody kind of knows that, so it's not a drama at all. I think Jack was just making a statement.
Yeah, was that the Zen drama? I guess it was like one video that talked about that for a second. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, all right, clicking through some of the old stuff. Oh, Jake, do you own any Watson?
No.
So disappointing, Jake. I thought you were jacked up. Now you're just Jake. You're back to Jake again. Yeah.
One of the reasons I didn't participate in a lot of stuff is because I didn't want to have the tax implications because I was switching tax jurisdictions. So I'm like, I'm touching nothing until I'm switched over. So I'm just thinking in the long term because I don't want to have a tax headache.
There were quite a few on OpenSea that were good prices if you consider the long game on them. I mean, they were overpriced for today's value, obviously, because even if you have a 10 M.1, you're only going to earn. You've only started earning maybe one ICOSA right now, so they're like $1.50. You would need to pay I don't know $30, $40, $50 or something for it. But that scarcity, there's only less of them. They go down, and when the bull market comes around, that's going to be interesting for them. So anyways, I only know this. I follow Hedron, ICOSA, Watson, all this stuff, obviously, but I know more about Watson recently because I've been doing giveaways. Like last night, I gave away a couple for RH trivia, and it's funny that I have all these OpenSea facts around me because I'm like, whoa, you all get to hang on. I don't know. It's gonna be funny to see how many get burned and all this stuff too. But
I think it's a cool ecosystem. I'm participating in the ecosystem for sure, but I don't own any Watson.
Somebody keeps saying now they got other people in the chat calling you Jack. That's funny. Oh no, he corrected it. Jake doesn't tell anyone where he's from. I'll just answer for him real quick.
Appreciate it.
You code for income. Interesting.
I used to, not anymore. No.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't see. This is the funny thing. Like working professionally, there's a lot of different jobs in tech, and when you say that, it means differently. So it means something different. When you ask somebody, do you code or are you dev, blah, 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 in crypto, I think it's different than when you ask them when they're like a professional person in the industry. So would I describe myself as a professional developer or coder in my industry? No, absolutely would not. There's people who do that job and they're very good at it. Do I write code? Yes, I do. I certainly do. I have for, I don't know, 15 or 20 years now. But in crypto, almost everyone would consider me a dev, even though I don't dev. I mean, I write code, but I'm not, it's like this weird, like, line from the industry to crypto on this stuff. So anyways, that's long story short, maybe a code for income. I mean, it's kind of like you're doing your job. You got to write code for some solution. Yeah, you write code, but I'm not a professional developer. I'll say that. What's up, Chad?
And one of the things that you can do is I have it in my Twitter bio, like crypto dev, because when you put crypto dev in your bio, it has like this cool feeling to it where people like they pay attention to you. So that's why I use it. Because the thing I believe about coding is because I looked into Solidity, and Solidity is not that hard. There's a lot of like the biggest thing when it comes to Solidity is the security. You just have to understand all of like the things that happen. Maybe like there's a bunch that happens in the long term with your smart contract, and you have to understand Solidity. And I think the main thing you have to understand with Solidity is not the actual syntax. So syntax is what you write in code. I think it's understanding the limitations of the blockchain and security concerns. If you have those two things down, Solidity is not that hard. It's just like a variation of JavaScript almost.
Yeah, like you mentioned earlier, just the language is, that's just syntax. I mean, of course you understand. I think once you have the fundamentals, you understand what, Boolean logic, you understand like what syntax means, where to put the semicolons, how to call functions, how parameters work, all this, how all this stuff works. You have the fundamentals, then you can move from language to language, where it's like, people ask me, oh, what language do you code in? It's like, I can code in any language, really. I mean, once you've done enough and over the years, and once you understand the fundamentals, getting another language, that's not that hard. But you got to have the fundamentals in place first. I had a question I want to ask you too. Let's say a fun one, I think. Let's say you onboarded a new wealthy hexagon today, like literally like today. Later today, you meet some like person who has high net worth individual, and they're like, okay, I think this is the bottom. I want to put $10 million in. Where do you put it in our current ecosystem, and why?
Ooh, the $10 million thing makes it interesting because you can't just buy it on the market. Ooh, that makes it interesting. So I think the best, obviously not financial advice, but I think the best play currently is buying HEX anywhere between a 90 to 95% correction zone. Because in crypto, you have two kind of forces playing, and one is narrative and one is tokenomics. HEX, narrative-wise, has a lot coming for it with the documentary, with the PulseChain launch. And I see HEX as a short-term play to get a bigger position into PulseX. I think PulseX is the end game, unless PulseChain launches at a very reasonable price and not like 20x above sacrifice prices for new people coming in. Because I think buying PulseChain at the 20x, there's a high probability that you're going to be down 60% in your position for a while. Well, I think PLSX has a lot cleaner launch mechanics, so I think an entry into PLSX is probably the cleanest play. So buy HEX, get the PHEX copy on the PulseChain, use that to buy PLSX, and then the EHEX, put it into a 2-year stake and forget about it. Because I think EHEX is going to dumb down because people like the new shiny thing, and it's similar to a big payday event. So I think a big dip is coming for EHEX, but I do think it's going to recover relatively quickly, maybe over a period of like 2 to 3 months to get price parity with the PHEX or a premium on PHEX. And I think if you just stake it and forget about it and not try to get your economic energy out at a loss, I think that's going to be the best play. From a high level, that's it. There's a lot of nuance to it. But then the $10 million thing is actually interesting. You would have to dollar cost average. I would honestly do it through limit orders then. Maybe put like a couple limit orders on 1 inch and put it under the market price. So maybe HEX is like 3.3 cents. And you would put limit orders at 3.2, 3.1, 2.7. You can do large amounts there because you're not market buying. That's how I recommend somebody entering with a big amount and then keeping some dry powder on the side to just buy PLSX or PulseChain if it's at a reasonable price. There's a lot of nuance to the strategy, but I think that's the best play to maximize this ecosystem specifically.
So basically, buy a whole bunch of, or maybe DCA into HEX, and then wait till PulseChain launch and turn some of that HEX into some of the other projects you like, PulseChain, PulseX. Nice.
I like PulseX, dude.
You like PulseX? What?
I like it.
That's something. We'll pivot that too, and I'll come back because there's a couple of questions on this too. But PulseX versus Uniswap, PancakeSwap, all the other dexes. Why is it superior? What ways can it? I don't know. How can it not beat everything out of the water? How can it not just win the Dex of the Year for the next 5 years?
Good question. I think technology-wise, but I think it has a very strong community. It has the entire system stake copy of Ethereum, meaning that PRC20s to ERC20s, there's going to be a bunch of liquidity pools between those. And then if you kind of bring it down to like first principles again, the only thing that matters on the DEX is number of coins, number of liquidity, and trading volume. And if you have number of coins and you have a bunch of liquidity on that DEX, no matter how good another technology is, it's not going to beat it. Because the only thing that matters is liquidity. That's like saying you're going to beat Apple just because you have a better phone. There's a lot more to it than that. So I think as long as it has the most liquidity, which it probably will with this arbitrage between these like ERC20s to PRC20s, large-ass community, a lot of volume already happening on these like other DEXs like on PancakeSwap, on BSC. I think as long as we have big liquidity pools with a bunch of tokens, I think PulseX will outperform. I'm not sure if it will outperform Uniswap. It depends on how big PulseChain gets. I think it can reach very similar levels to Uniswap. I agree with that 100%. I think BSC is losing a lot of steam. If you look at PancakeSwap, I think they're doing like 120 to 250 million a day in volume, which is not impressive.
Interesting. I guess what would the strategy be for PulseX? Let's say somebody missed the sacrifice phase. They're coming into it. Maybe they don't have. Maybe that's something too. Like what happens? What are the plays for people who are new to HEX, new to the ecosystem, new to PulseChain after launch? Like they don't have any PHEX, they don't get the copies, nothing like that. What do you do after launch in the RH ecosystem?
Buy PulseX or PulseChain if it's during its first correction. Yeah, I like new projects. I think
HEX will be so high at that point where it won't even, especially not getting your copies, it just probably won't be the best entry at that point after launch.
Correct. Yeah, until PLS have done like a 250x or whatever, then it's probably going to be equal, and then you can make your decisions. But I think there's a lot of narrative to like new projects, new ecosystem, beginning of the bull run. I think new things just perform better.
Well,
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of people coming in like that too.
Yeah, I think HEX is still going to be fine. I think HEX is just going to start performing more like a mature asset because it's going to have bigger liquidity pools because EHEX, PHEX are now getting paired and a bunch of people are going to liquidity farm it. So there's more economic mass required to push up the price of HEX. And also, now have two centrals of buying. Everybody's like, PHEX is going to be the only HEX, but I don't believe that because HEX is just code. And HEX on Ethereum is still the best chain. You can say PulseChain is better technology-wise, but it's still the most adopted chain. So I think the HEX on Ethereum, I 100% believe it's going to reach parity with PulseChain. I don't see it dying at all. Everybody's saying that HEX on Ethereum will die. I'm like, nah, dude. That's just because you're in our eco bubble.
I don't think the OA will let it die. I really, I'm starting to come around to that thing. I'm starting to suspect the OA could provide, could make it parity. Could be like, okay, I'm, put up whatever liquidity they need to do to be like, yep, this is what I meant by saying there's not going to be any cheap HEX anywhere. This is what I meant. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yep. We have 105 people watching. Damn, dude. It has to be a pretty face. It's the stoic attitude, dude. Or maybe the suit.
I bring the stoicism and you bring the blazer. We got it. And the water. You found the water. Yeah. A couple questions. Let's see. What are you guys most excited about after seeing the POW forks and the hack on BNB? Interesting question. Yeah. Not sure they're related, but
excited about hacks.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
I don't know. I think EPOW will stay around. I mean, if ETH Classic survive, this is definitely going to survive. It has a lot more support. It has the entire system stake copy. I don't know if people realize it, but Ethereum proof of work was the Ethereum you used for the last 3 years on HEX. It's that network. If anything, the ETH proof of stake, the official ETH, is actually the new network. So, yeah, I think EPOW will stay around. I think HEX will actually I think HEX is going to do fine on that. I just think the PulseChain is going to take all the hype away from it. Everybody's going to want to buy the Ethereum HEX because they get the copy there and not from the Ethereum proof of work. But I think HEX is HEX, code is code. I think it's going to be just fine in the next bull run. I don't recommend buying it. I just say I think it's going to survive.
Yeah, definitely a lot of companies and different exchanges and stuff have started supporting it. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, this question too I want to riff on for a second. All my hexes and perpetuals. Should I don't know. I go back and forth on this as far as, I even talked about a few days ago about HEX, buy HEX becoming a meme because we have so many derivatives that have all these other features that allow you to get yield and things like that. How do you think? What do you think of as far as the perpetuals go? We get the premium, during the cycles and stuff like that, but also someone new coming into HEX. Like, what is most appealing for them? Would it be HEX? Would it be perpetuals? Would it be derivatives of the B share and stuff like that? What new people coming into HEX? What do you think they're gonna be interested in?
That's a good question, man. Like with all of these derivatives, I imagine a new person coming in and hearing all this, like, what?
Yeah.
Even sometimes, like when most of the stuff launches, I'm like, I still have to figure it out. It's like, what is happening here? So I can only imagine new people. I think new people. I think the simpler the pitch is, the better. Like when you look at Apple, I like using Apple as an example because they're the biggest company in the world. When they brought out the first iPod, I think it was an iPod. I think literally the only thing they used for marketing was one sentence: carry 1,000 songs in your pocket. I could be paraphrasing, but that's it. They didn't say, oh, it has this dimensions and this tech inside and this and this. It's just like, hey, 1,000 songs in your pocket, enjoy. So I think the simpler the marketing pitch, the better things are going to perform. I think that's why the PulseChain community is already bigger than the HEX community, if you just look at Telegram numbers, because it's easier to understand. It's just like, hey, it's a better, faster version of Ethereum. And it has better tokenomics.
That's a good point as far as just, do you think the derivatives then are more for people in the ecosystem to benefit from, and new people will just be like the simple, like buy HEX type of thing? Do you think it's going to play out like that?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I was reading Bullish's comments.
Oh, I said, do you think the derivatives are more for people already in the ecosystem to make plays on and bets and stuff in the future, versus new people coming in are probably just going to, I bought HEX, I staked HEX, go to hex.com, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that's the best.
I have heard there's some people who bought Hedron and don't know anything about HEX. I don't know how many of those people are in the world, but that would be interesting if people are buying derivatives first, especially, Hedron's been around the longest as far as that goes. I don't know. Can you see in 2023 people like, yeah, I just bought Maxi, and it's like, oh, and that's a HEX thing, right? But,
I think it's overhyped. I think it's the argument they use to protect themselves, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's like a very small amount of people, and they're like, "Oh, we're bringing new people into the ecosystem." And I'm like, nah.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that from like some of the maybe the hexagons that do institutional stuff, where they have clients they're working with, and they're saying, okay, here's my game plan. Here's the things I'm looking at. Here's the things that we've looked at and researched, and we feel like are going to be good bets. And, maybe not the best time to go into HEX, but maybe it's better time to go into these other ones. And now their clients only know about that, but eventually they'll know about the other one. I could see that, but yeah, I don't think it's a large percentage of people for sure. If either of you look closely at the stakes ending throughout the next 10 weeks, HEX fire, I would say a lot of downward pressure. Yeah. What do you think about, I guess, the next 10 weeks in general, regardless, we looked at HEX fire, which is an amazing website. I don't know. I know the cloud of PulseChain launch. We know that HEX is going to go nuts around that time, probably. But like the next 10 weeks for HEX, any speculation?
It's when you look at these like hexfire.io stakes and stuff like that, yes, end stakes are important. But you can kind of look historically, like during this last period, during the same period last year, there were also a lot of stakes ending. And I think there's just rollover stakes as well with 1 year, and people like take their interest out, they restake the principal. So I just think like the same thing with like the Godwell. I think he had like 100 million plus HEX stake come out, and then he just restaked the entire thing. So everybody was like freaking out for nothing. So I think it's a very good indicator.
Coins are coming out. Mt. Gox coins are coming out. They've been coming out for a long time now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's an important indicator to look at. I just think we're very close to a bottom. We have the PulseChain thing coming up, and then we have the documentary. I'm not that worried about it, to be honest.
Go over I guess the order of things you think would be ideal for that. You mentioned documentary, and then testnet, and then launch. Was that it?
Yeah, I think if he does a documentary first, then does testnet v3, because people watch the documentary, new people enter the ecosystem. Then what does everybody do? Okay, oh, he talks about HEX. Go on Google, look up HEX. Then because YouTube ranks first in the search results, you're probably going to go watch some YouTube videos because everybody will like watching videos. I think over 80% of the consumption on the internet is videos. So people are going to watch some videos. We have plenty of content, so they can get used to the idea. Then through all of the videos, they're going to learn about PulseChain. I think if we then have like testnet v3, maybe like 2 to 3 weeks after the documentary, and then testnet v3 lasts for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then we have a PulseChain launch, I think that would be a beautiful hype cycle, to be honest. Like, it's perfect because then you have the documentary as like a community reinvigoration event for like, oh, documentary, it's cool. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Everybody focuses on this ecosystem again. Then testnet v3 keeps everybody on their heels. They have something to play with again. It's getting closer. And then if it actually launches, I think that will be a beautiful like orchestra of like, you know?
It happened. It happened.
Yes.
Richard
I'm
didn't
not
have to
gonna
give
lie,
anyone
dude. I've been
refunds.
impatient. But even Richard is impatient, you know? I think we all are.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I keep pushing the date out in my mind. Every time, like, I keep thinking January now. I keep saying January just because it's a date far enough away for me not to worry about it. I'm like, yeah, January. But if we get to January and it doesn't launch, I can be like, yeah, April. I'm just going to keep pushing it out because I cannot. I try my best to not spend brain power on something that I can't control. But it's so hard because it's something that's so meaningful to you, right? It's so hard to do. But you have to like play 100%. These mental tricks with yourself to like to get out of that. Let's see, scrolling through. Sorry, everyone, I'm missing chat at the bottom because I'm trying to keep on the questions that I keep coming across.
Crypto financial advisor. I like calling myself a professional hopium dealer.
So funny. What will I say about?
I think pull up the bullish comments.
Like,
I think it's I think it's interesting.
Which thread? So was it this thread? Okay.
So if you want to be technical, ETH is the proof of work you were using before. I swear I'm not trying to pump my bags. Okay, next comment. ETH fork was at the same exact block height when the merger appeared. They also kept EIP 1559. EW does not share the same block height, or does it have? Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Does EW doesn't have EIP 1559? Are you sure? That's interesting. I'm actually not sure, dude. I'll actually look it up.
We're gonna look it up now.
Ethereum proof of work release for code announces the removal of EIP 1559. They're correct. That's actually a good point. The thing that scares me about like Ethereum Fair is that it's not supported. Nobody talks about it. It kind of gives me that like weird Indian kid in the corner vibe. Because this is not like condescending to Indians, but it's just like it has this unprofessional vibe to it that I don't like.
Yeah. I thought what the proof of work or Ethereum Fair guy, I thought he was Chinese. Is he Indian?
Could be. I don't know. It just gives me that vibe. I have no idea. But I just know proof of work is getting supported by the big guys.
Yeah, I would say ETHW has been listed a lot of different places. It was actually surprising it got that much, like as far as the exchanges stuff, listing it. ETH, I don't know. I mean, they're I don't know if I had to pick one to survive. I'm going ETHW. Just looking at the public support and all this stuff on it. Yeah, I don't know. Good, interesting fact about 1559. Yes, Bill also says smash the like.
I mean, the way I look at blockchains is actually extremely simple. It's an expensive database, so as long as the database operates, everything performing on it, everything running on it will perform fine. And then there's this counter argument where, like, if the native token does not perform well because it's bonded by Hart's law, it will not perform well when it comes to price performance because they're all linked to the native token. I understand that argument, but just like for the functionality, it's an expensive database. It still works. The fees are low. I think it's fine. People are overcomplicating it.
Good question here. What if HEX and RH are 20? Yeah, that's so. During the last interview, he did mention that he's like in 20% of the documentary. I think that's enough, honestly. 20%. That seems like because we're gonna have all these stories from all these rich Hexicans and all this stuff too, and all these cars and things like that. If I only see his face one out of every once in a while, and he does some spiel about something or like shows him at some party, I don't know. I don't have a problem with that. If it was like 10%, I would be like, okay, 5 to 10%, that's a little low, but 20%, I think it's okay. Like, is that supposed to like make the documentary worse and not promote the message or something?
I think it's better from a psychology perspective, because if you look at most documentaries, it's a lot more powerful if other people talk about somebody than him talking about himself.
Right.
So I think it's from a conversion perspective, it's actually better.
I think about what I'm looking forward to seeing in the documentary, and it's not him doing a live stream. It's not like 100% Richard. I don't want to see the documentary where it's just him talking the whole time, right? Yeah, it's like, yeah, and he has the airplane bags, whatever. You can flash that for a few seconds, but I want to hear how this changed people's lives. Like, that's what I want to hear in a documentary, stuff like that. So
yes.
If I get 80% of life-changing wealth and volcanoes and Hummers and stuff, I'm okay with that. Just scrolling. Are you frustrated with the delays? I think Jack said he was, but he can elaborate if you'd like.
Yeah, but the way I kind of counterbalance it is, imagine this: when PulseChain and PulseX launch and you were part of the sacrifice set, if you were part of the sacrifice set, when it launches, that's essentially your buy-in. So wouldn't you want to buy at the bottom of the market? Obviously you would, So when it launches, that's when you buy. It's when you bought, because that's when you officially get the coin. So in theory, that's when you bought. You can kind of look at it like that. And I think it's actually beautiful, because we got protected against the 70% downside in the crypto markets. We got protected against the Forex market completely collapsing, the pound going to crap, almost the euro going to crap. So not only did you get protected from a 70% downside in crypto, if you also had stable coins that we were going to keep on the side, you were also protected against the euro or the pound, or your cash on the side, or the pound collapsing like another 30 to 40%. So you didn't protect yourself only against 70%, you protected yourself against the 70% plus a 30 to 40% in your native currency, unless you're in the dollar. So I'm like, probably.
Let's play this out for a second too. A lot of people thought this was going to launch last December, January, February, stuff like that. Like PulseX, okay, let's get that sacrifice out of the way. Now we're ready to go. Everything's ready. He said a lot of stuff around that. So launching back then, what are the pros and cons of launching back then and then launching now in January, for example? Like what did we get saved from? I mean, you cover a couple things, but also what do we miss? Like world's largest airdrop. Hey, it's still going to be the case technically, but you got to admit a little bit of breath came out of it, at least recently. I know the hype will start back up, but a little bit when we didn't beat ETH2 to market, we can't say that now, right? So like, I guess what are both sides of it?
Yeah, we did beat E2.0 to market. We still have the world's largest airdrop technically, but we're not going to use that for marketing probably. I think the thing that all of these forks did incorrectly is they didn't have an AMM bot. And the only thing that matters on the chain is liquidity. If there's no liquidity, there's nothing there. Projects and liquidity and developers. So the AMM bot is going to give PulseChain a massive, massive, massive advantage, and it's going to give PulseX a massive advantage, because all the liquidity that's going to drain from like Uniswap, SushiSwap, 0x, Bancor, all the liquidity gets all put into PulseX. And I think it also has a narrative, the only narrative where it's the only vertically decentralized integrated ecosystem in all of crypto. Because you can counter argument and say like Binance. And yes, and if you look at Binance, didn't BNB do like a 6,000x? I think it did. I think BNB did a 6,000x, and that's the closest example we have to a vertically integrated ecosystem, except it's centralized, massively centralized. So I think PulseChain is the decentralized version of that, which is very bullish. And I think you're going to be fine, man. Yeah. I think if you have the ability to buy, I think we're going to make it. If you have the ability to be part of an entirely new ecosystem close to the bottom of the bear market, if not after the bottom of the bear market, chances would say you're probably going to be just fine.
Uniswap V3, that's something people have been bringing up too. Not that we're going to be launching in May. Maybe we will. Who knows? Mid-May 2023. Who knows? But yeah, I know. That's what he meant. That's what the lead dev meant, or not the lead dev, the B team dev or JV dev or whatever. That's what he meant. Richard misunderstood. He heard this year, but the guy actually, he was correct. And no, just kidding. That'd be crazy. But V3, some people said, okay, is it better we have V3? Is it better to wait? Blah, blah, blah. Any opinion on that? V2 versus V3 for PulseX?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters that much. It's a crypto nerd thing. If you just want to focus on the mainstream, onboarding the mainstream, they don't care about Uniswap v2 and v3.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just people are just looking for stuff to talk about because we have nothing else to talk about. I think Uniswap v3 is cool. I think it's going to get implemented into PulseX at some point. I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Also, does anyone have a clue about what pre-bridge ratio trading will look like? Yeah. Any idea on that?
Does anybody have any clue exactly? That's a hard question. I don't know what the question is.
I guess it's, if I were to reframe it, more around pre-bridge ratio trading. Yeah, I guess maybe you can talk about what pairs do you think are going to go nuts. Are you going to be able to get a good deal? That's the thing a lot of people are thinking about. Am I going, if I participate, a lot of people aren't going to participate because they're like, nope, I have no idea, which may be the right move. But if for the people who do participate in the pre-bridge ratio trading, what does a good deal look like? Like, do we have any idea what a good deal looks like as far as HEX and PLS pairs and all that stuff?
It's so hard to find like a good ratio. Oh man, because the only thing you can base it off of is what was the price of HEX at the time of the fork, like the block at the time of the fork, and then base it off of the sacrifice prices of PulseX and Pulse. But what if they launch it like a 10x? I mean, pre-bridge ratio trading is like you could have an amazing deal there, but you could also just not have an amazing deal. So I think the safest play is just the dollar cost average, maybe do like 10% if you do want to swap over 10% or 20% day one, and then just dollar cost average in normally instead of just dumping all pre-bridge. Maybe you get a good deal, maybe you don't. And it's like even big genius brains cannot figure it out. Because it's so many variables, man. And it's so hard to give like, because I have a lot of conviction and stuff, but this pre-bridge thing is like, what is a good ratio? I don't know. I seriously don't know.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I don't know. There will be people wrecked. It will happen because everyone's like, nope. As soon as I can trade these coins, the sooner the better. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then they're like, no, but I didn't know the thing would be this way. And then just if you're not sure, just wait. Just wait. If you can wait a year and a half for this, you can wait another like 3 days. He said, well, I mean, I don't know. He said this stuff a long time ago, but it's supposed to be a couple days before launch or whatever, pre-bridge, all this stuff. But just wait a couple more days, whatever it is. Don't wreck yourself. Just scrolling, and then I wanted to talk about, I got a lot of questions, but I wanted to talk about these. What are the chances PLS doesn't and PLSX? What are the chances things don't dump after launch? I guess what is the case for them immediately dumping because everyone's just selling and wanting to get that quick money real quick? And what is the case that they still do that and that still happens, but there's so many people waiting to pick it up that it doesn't even move the price?
I think second. I think the only thing people account for is like, oh, sacrifice set's so big, so many sellers. But then they don't account for like the other side of it, which is buyers. I mean, people are like, everybody that went into the sacrifice set only wants to sell, but I only want to buy. And I'm part of the sacrifice set. I'm going to buy more. And I think I'm not the only one. Because we had like 1 year and a half to learn about it. Because like in the mastermind, I hop on calls with a lot of people. And there's people who went into this PulseChain sacrifice. That's the first time they heard about Richard Hart. They put like $5,000 in or whatever. And these people have a lot of money. And they're like, I just put $5,000 in because I wanted to participate. But now I want to put a big chunk of my net worth into this ecosystem. And I think a large part of the sacrifice set, okay, I think there's people strapped for cash and they'll probably sell. But I think you have buy pressure from the bridge opening from Ethereum and everybody learning about this project and 18 months of not being able to buy it. You have buy pressure coming from there, from institutions that could not participate in the sacrifice set because of legal reasons. And then you have the sacrifice set that wants to buy more. I think it just gets overwhelmed with the buy pressure.
$2 billion, almost $2 billion sacrificed. You got to imagine some of those sacrificed or groups and stuff. They, I mean, if you're an investor who really wants to make a lot of money in crypto, and you invest in a project, you've already got all that conviction, and you don't lose that conviction, and then it launches, and it takes it takes a year and a half, whatever, to launch. You would think that you would have that dry powder set aside to pull the trigger as soon as people start selling. You're like, nope, not happening. Almost $2 billion. This is not like we didn't get like, this is not a $10 million sacrifice. This is almost $2 billion. That's a lot of money in this.
Yes.
Wanted to talk. Okay, let's get to what you actually want to talk about before we wrap up here in a bit. PulseChain updates. The BSC to ETH 2.0.
I like it.
So you like it? Do we even know that they won't be voting anymore? I mean, couldn't that still be implemented too? I mean, I know that it's kind of like going away maybe by default, but maybe Richard puts it back. I mean, implements it and new stuff like that, and also maybe compare to better for the long term. I think that's consensus. But will it cause another delay? Like, not that we'll know about it, but will there be another internal delay to get this stuff figured out?
I actually don't think so. And here's the reasoning for that. I liked the E 2.0 fork because there's a part in there that kind of everybody ignores. It's E 2.0 is already audited. The biggest thing with code is audits. The audits take the longest. And if they wanted to build their own consensus off of BSC, which was the plan, they still had to audit it. They had to fix a couple bugs, a lot of bugs. And then they had to audit it. I think the fact that the audits are already done for most of the consensus code on E 2.0, I think it's actually faster time to market. And then the fact that, because the way I kind of like putting it for like a non-tech people to understand is now we basically have the Ethereum dev team on our side. All the improvements they make to Ethereum, they're making to PulseChain because it's code for code compatible because it's starting from the same code base. And then they can just merge it in. If they started from BSC, there's a massive already shift in the code base from there. But if they fork from E 2.0, the Ethereum dev team is now on our side. So I like it. I'm actually a big fan of it. That's the simplest way to put it. I mean, if sharding gets implemented, we also get it.
Yeah, definitely for the long term, it's something where we're able to consume the features that come in. And it just seemed like at the time it was a little bit of a gut punch of like, and you said there's not gonna be any more delay, but it can't just be a seamless transition for that. There's gotta be some time set aside. And I know we'll know when testnet v3 comes out. And who knows, maybe all this stuff, maybe next month, maybe literally all this stuff comes out next month, testnet v3, documentary, boom, boom, boom. Maybe all this stuff happens. And then it's just like no worries whatsoever. But I certainly didn't initially take it I took it as good news, but it was just not that like, it wasn't this sweet taste in my mouth. I was like, okay, all right, I get it, but all right, I get it. It was kind of one of those things.
Yep. Then Bullish asked something in the comments.
Oh, okay.
What was it over here? Yeah, the question remains: will the AMM bot scoop up the V3 liquidity? PulseX is V2. Well, the last thing I remember the team saying is with the AMM bot, because the code for the AMM bot doesn't really change because it's just emptying liquidity pools. They had a solution for V3, the last thing I remembered. So I think V3 is also getting emptied. That's the last thing I heard. Obviously, I'm not on the team, so take it with a massive grain of salt. But the last update was that they actually got it fixed because that was a big issue with the AMM bot.
Sure, at least some SAT guys will dump after all this time. Yeah, but I think the point is that there'll be so much people waiting. So all the people, you got to categorize people too. Like not every investor is the same. Some people put $1,000 into Pulse. Some people put tens of millions of dollars into Pulse. You got all that too. And you got the OA, our best friend, holding on this stuff as well, benevolent whale type of thing. So yes, there will be plenty of people dumping, but what is the ratio going to be of people dumping to people buying? And then do they let a big dump happen and then everyone scoop up? Like how fast? It's almost like the whole thing is an ARB opportunity. Like everyone, like here's the ARB opportunity. Everyone knows this stuff's going to be insanely valuable in the future. How fast can we scoop it up when people sell? It's almost like that.
I agree. I think it's going to be fine. I don't see it dropping under sacrifice prices because from a technical analysis perspective, most of the volume happened between like the volume bonus range. And I think it doesn't drop below there. I just don't think so because we have a bunch of buy pressure coming in. The entire community is going to be reinvigorated. And then usually support is where the most volume is on the chart. On the price ranges with the most volume, it usually does not go below there. Or at least it has to like fight very hard to go below there. So I don't see it going below sacrifice prices. And if it does, it's probably going to be a wick similar to how Ethereum had it. I think Ethereum dumped down the first day on one exchange to like 18 cents. And the sack price was like, well, whatever they called it back then, was 30 cents. But it only did it on one exchange, not everywhere. Everywhere else, it was like 42 cents, I think, or 41 cents was the bottom, and then it just ran up.
That's a good
And it launched at a 10x.
Do you think psychologically, will anyone let it go below the sack price? Like, do you think like we've been locked in for this long period of time? Well, I guess, some people obviously will, but will enough people actually let it go there? Or is that kind of like, could that be the bottom for Pulse at launch where we wick down and stuff, but it doesn't really ever go below that? How possible is that?
I think it's very possible. Yeah, I don't see it going below sacrifice price. And if it does, it's going to be a wick.
Wick. A Judas candle in the PulseChain launch.
Yep. And then, the game you can play is you can put your limit orders there because now you have limit orders on PulseX.
Ooh, that's a good point. Limit orders. Look, people rushing to PulseX, putting those limit orders for scoop up that cheap, beautiful Pulse. Yeah, there you go. I want to ask about PulseChain as I think you're talking about this. Somebody was talking about this as a cross-border payment type of thing. Do you think that will? I guess what kind of things can you see people using for PulseChain with its low fees, its fundamental stuff like that? What are some of the stuff like we're not even talking about, like the effects it's going to have on the broader ecosystem that you can think of that people will use it for?
Foreign transactions is a big one. If it gets supported by exchanges, because if you have like one exchange in one country and another exchange in another country, and you can go to PulseChain, send it over, they can put it on the exchange and then take it into the real world. I think it's definitely going to be a form of remittance, because with the marketing agency that I had, we actually had a virtual assistant for lead generation, and the way we had to pay him was through like this world transfer thing, and it was so weird, man. I had to like send money to a bank account, and then because he lived in the Philippines, I had to send money to a bank account, and then he had to physically go to the office in the Philippines to collect the money in cash. And oftentimes there's like issues over there, and there's like a massive like 5 to 7% fee. Now I'm like, the hell is this garbage? And I'm like, remittance is actually, or whatever you pronounce it, massive issue. So if it gets supported on exchanges and they have it as simple as Ethereum sending it on that chain, but I think the same argument can be made for Tron, but I'm not sure if exchanges support Tron as the exchange to send. So it's just a cool thing to think about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of unsolved problems out there. And I think some of the unintended side effects in a good way, good and bad, but if we think about the good things that crypto can do, and especially new launches of coins with cheap fees, I'm excited to see it. What are you planning for PulseChain launch? What are you going to do? Party, down payment on Lambo? You're going to lock up all your coins immediately? Can't touch them for years and years and years. What is Jake going to do when PulseChain launches?
Buy, forget about it, and then live off of yield. I'm going to be recompounding all of my yield for the first 6 months, and then I'm going to start living off of yield from the signal size taken of PLSX and maybe some other stuff that we do. But that's from a high level. That's it. I'm not planning on selling. I don't care how big the number is. I'm not selling until the next bull market, and then maybe exit a percentage of your portfolio based on like timing analysis. That's fine, but like, please don't sell before the next bull market. It's very depressing. It's probably one of the most depressing things you can do.
I mean,
before a bull market.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they do sell, wouldn't it be going into your pocket? Maybe it's in your best interest that everyone sells real cheap, Jake. You got to think about that too.
Everybody sell, please.
And before we get out of here, and maybe I'll get a couple more questions here if we have any to come in. Everyone get your questions in, because the morning's winding down. Yeah, you got time? Okay. Yep. I'll go through questions here in a second, but PulseChain, talk about how PulseChain can take HEX to the next level. Like, how people say that it's very easy to like, oh, well, this and that, but like, really, how can PulseChain just, not that it saves HEX, not that it makes HEX this thing that you would never touch, because we already knew that with 5555 we have all the game mechanics we need, but how does PulseChain take HEX and make it this thing that is just legendary?
Good question. Everybody has this narrative where they're going to take their money out of Pulse and PulseX when they take profit and put it in HEX. But I'm not going to do that. I just think PulseX is a better store of value than HEX. I'll say it. I think HEX is fine. I mean, the thing you kind of have to take with a grain of salt here is everybody that got into HEX early, obviously, they're going to want to see HEX do well. because it's like they have so much of the money and they're locked for 15 years. So I can definitely understand it. I think it's a fine play, but I just like PulseX more because you have built-in buy pressure, you have it being deflationary. I want to hold my money in a deflationary asset. That's why people hold land, because land, finite supply. You know, if you own land, well, own land, you never really own anything, but you own land in the real world. They don't make more land. They cannot make more country. So, you know, okay, if I hold it, I'm probably going to do just fine because demand is going up for land. There's not more being created. So by default, it's a good store of value. I like the deflationary aspect. I just like my money being in deflationary stuff because if you're earning yield in a deflationary system, you actually increase your position in the deflationary asset. Because if you're recompounding yield, let's say you have a million supply and you're earning, like, let's say for easy math, a grand in yield every day. You put that 1,000 back in and back in and back in. So you own more of a deflating supply. I like that a lot more for storing my wealth, man. I don't know about everybody else. I don't want to be in the inflationary assets. I like HEX, but I just like PLSX and also PLS. It's also deflationary. I just like deflationary assets.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard people make a case for PulseX over HEX. Like, even are you saying at that current, like from now, then, like, for example, if you were early into HEX and you could buy at those prices versus being early into PLSX at those prices, or are you saying like from HEX's value now at launch and continuing versus PLSX? Like I guess maybe break down, like, you know, why you would choose PLSX over HEX in that case.
Just because of the tokenomics. That's the only reason. I also think a DEX is a massive innovation. Still to this day, I think Uniswap is not that old. Like, a DEX is a massive innovation. Yeah, I just like being in deflationary assets, and then the fact that you earn. So at PulseX, you kind of have PulseX. All the supply gets minted day one is deflationary. You have built-in buy pressure, so you basically have a billionaire buying every day and then losing his wallet. And then you also have this aspect of you earn yield in other tokens that are not PLSX, meaning that the sell pressure on the yield is not on a native asset, PLSX. Well, not native asset, on PLSX. And you can also assume that people are going to sell the yield they earn from other tokens and put it into stuff they like. So because they already are in the single-site staking pools with PLSX, we can assume that they like PLSX. So a large percentage of the stakers of PLSX are probably going to recompound their yield back into PLSX and increase their positions. So you have built-in buy pressure inside of the protocol, and you have community buy pressure from yield that they're generating in other tokens in a deflationary asset. Ooh, I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just want to throw HEX HODL. T-shares are deflationary. Yeah, I mean, that. How do you? I don't know. It's funny. Like when we have these conversations, it's like you're taking all these amazing things and you're trying to compare them.
Yes.
But it's almost like they're all great. They're all great. But I mean, for me, T-shares, they're still king in my mind, regardless of PulseChain, PulseX. But man, you make a pretty good argument for it too. I got to say, the PulseX, we're all going to win. It's
that's the thing.
Stuff. I like it.
I mean, I like HEX, obviously. I'm not a HEX OG. So maybe I just have different psychology. Maybe I'm like a bigger mirror on new participants coming into the ecosystem. Because I'm definitely not a HEX maxi. I'm also not a Richard Hart maxi. I'm an opportunity maximalist. And right now, all of the opportunity is in this damn ecosystem, and it's going to be for quite a while.
That's
quite a while.
Not wrong, man. That's I like opportunist maxi. Yeah. Another thing about the weight token, follow any of the 0x Coast stuff?
No, I think it has a free claim. That's pretty cool.
It's free claim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake's bullishness on PulseX is inspiring. Yeah. Jake's.
I tried to back it up with arguments.
Blazer inspiring, but you can't quite flex in the Blazer as well as you could in your gym photos. True. But yeah, we've seen your photos. We know what it looks like.
Yeah, there's this thing that I try to stay away from in crypto. I just do not like being linked to one thing. I like a capitalistic market where if Richard keeps building the best thing, we're all gonna stay here. But the moment it sucks, I'm not gonna convince myself that it's good. And I don't want anybody to fall into the cult mentality. I think this community is only net positive. The best educators, the best tokenomics in all of crypto, vertically integrated ecosystem. And there's so much goddamn going on here that it's probably the best place to be currently. I don't want everybody to fall into the trap of convincing them it's the best thing if it's not the best thing anymore. And I think we're going to be just fine.
It'd be great. We Man, just how massive can you imagine after launch? How do you think the community is going to compound just as far as brain power? We've already got big brains and Hedron and Maximus and building all this cool stuff, but that's that we're building on top of Hex. Can you imagine the big brains are going to come in at PulseChain and start building on top of PulseChain, like PulseChain derivatives? Maybe. I mean, that's future is fucking bright, man. Like if you're not happy in this ecosystem right now, and maybe you're sucked into the drama or whatever, I don't know what to tell you. There's infinite amount of just amazing stuff that's going to happen for the next 5, 10, 15 years at least.
Yes.
I just asked for questions. Otherwise, we're gonna wrap up. We flexed jacked up's brain today. Jacked up. Your new nickname.
By the way, for everybody saying I'm on drugs, I never do drugs. Hey, this is this is energy war, man. I have high energy because I make it a priority.
Yeah. It's like the question, are you happy, Jake? Are you happy? It's like, yeah, I'm fucking happy. Look at me. I'm doing great. This guy, I'd be happy if I was Jake too. Looking good, feeling good, taking his vitamins. It's all good stuff to me. All right, nobody's got questions. They're probably going to take a nap after listening to us for the last couple hours. I don't blame them. I might take a nap too. Actually, I can't take a nap because I don't nap during the day. Otherwise, I sleep bad. I'm probably going to take a run, if anything, honestly. Another run. I'm going to do some more pull-ups. Jake's going to be pumped. We are in history. That's true. All right, everyone. Great stream today. Thanks for joining me, man. Fantastic to have you. It's only the second stream we did together. That's kind of strange. We should do more.
Hey, I watch your channel.
Very good.
So I'll definitely go on again. Yes.
Thank you. I got to start paying attention to your Twitter more. I'm telling you, your Twitter is nice. Do you have to be very good at because there's so many clips. I know you don't do it all yourself. Do you just have a team of people just putting content out? Maybe going to that as an ending. How do you just proliferate this content so well? How do you do that?
I have a team. I pay them $2,500 a month, and they watch all of my live streams, and then they timestamp the best part, and then they create shorts themselves. It's actually the same team that Dollar Cost Crypto have. There's one thing I don't like about Richard is the fact that he's so damn cheap. If the guy just hires the same team that Dollar Cost Crypto and I use, he would grow so much goddamn faster on social media. The guy just needs to spend money. He has more money than everybody else combined in this entire ecosystem. I'm like, dude, just spend money, hire people, do the damn scaling thing. Stop being so damn cheap. I don't understand it, man. Yes,
that is crazy. He doesn't have an assistant. He doesn't have this whole team. That's just you need this whole brand department. It would be so easy for that.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, yes, you want to do it decentralized, but you have all the brain power. You have all the people behind you. There's massively talented people in this community. The team that manage my YouTube is actually a hexagon. There's 2 hexagons. And, dude, Richard says he's trying, but are you trying, dude? If you're trying to do everything yourself and you're a billionaire, potentially going to be a goddamn trillionaire, are you even trying? Because he goes back into the day with his mortgage stuff and having a sales team and having massive sales floors and scaling or dying. And I'm like, are you lying? Because it doesn't. Yeah, he's building amazing things. He's a genius. His live streams are probably the best crypto education you can ever get. But like, there's some things about him where I'm just like, are you really trying? Just hire people, dude.
If I were to suspect like why he hasn't did that yet, I think he literally just spends so much time and energy into doing all these things, like making sure the devs are going well, like doing all these business connections. I think he literally is just like, I do it. Like he's a human being. Like he only has so much time throughout the day, almost so much brain power. I literally think that's it. Now, whether he should make some changes or whatever to improve, that's a different story. But like why he's not doing it to me is like, I just think he's spending every ounce of energy he can to make sure this community has the products that they should have no expectations to have. And I guess that's my explanation. But man, imagine. So again, like you set it up perfectly. The bullish case, I buy Richard Hart stock. I'm very bullish on Richard Hart stock because there's so many things he hasn't even did yet. This is all the stuff you just brought up. All the stuff he hasn't even did it yet, and he's. I think
he wants to do it as well.
So.
Yeah, and like in his hexologist stream, he was also talking about like wanting to live stream everything, but not doing it because of OPSEC reasons. And maybe the documentary is going to kind of sort of break his OPSEC, so he might like start doing more and having a videographer follow him. So I do have to give him credit. Yeah. I like Richard, don't get me wrong. I just think because with the YouTube team, I don't have to do anything. They do all of it themselves. I don't even watch my own damn shorts. I'm like, I'm scrolling through my channel. I see my clips and shorts, and I'm like watching, like, this is some good stuff, dude.
Yeah. Tell them to start tagging us. I see so many videos with me in it too. And I'm like, I had no idea this even happened until I started scrolling through. So yeah, no, they're doing great. They're doing great. But yeah, man, it's totally, there's so many things that he could do that he's not doing for whatever reason. But man, that's again, bullish, super bullish. So much good stuff coming up.
Yes,
So,
100%.
anyways, man, you have an excellent day wherever you are in the world over there. Excellent conversation. I've got 2 amazing interviews to clip up. These past 2 streams have just been wild. So I'll be spending, I don't think I'm going to stream. I keep saying that I'm not going to stream the rest of the week. And I'll be like, no, actually, I feel like I want to stream Thursday or Friday. So maybe. We'll see. But I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of fucking thumbnails to create. So cool, man. Excellent to have you. Again, thanks for coming on. We got to do it again sometime. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yes.
You're a man who has health, wealth, and wisdom, and I love having these discussions.
Likewise, man. Dude, I love these streams. I actually rewatched these streams myself, and I watched your channel, so 100%, man.
It's super fun. I watched them. I think I would watch them, but I spent so much time clipping in the editing room and doing all the production that I'm like, but that's when I get into it, because sometimes I can only pay attention to, so much during the conversation. But when I go back in and do the production part of it, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's very notable. I need to get that out there. That's good information. So everyone, I don't know if I'm going to stream for the rest of the week. We'll see. Probably. If I don't see you till then, look out for the clips. Go sub to Jake. Go to his website right there. Go at NKNose on Twitter. YouTube, Jake Sharpe. Is that all the stuff, Jake? You got anything else?
No, that's
you
it.
got TikTok. You got Instagram. You got Gucci. You got Gucci Life. Anything? You got OnlyFans maybe?
OnlyFans. Yeah, I'm starting that.
Yeah.
Some chart porn.
Yeah.
I said it's a keyword.
Don't worry. I don't monetize. I don't care. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, this is good.
Cool, man.
I liked it.
Follow me at RHMaximus, and I appreciate chat. You all killed it today. Lots of good questions, lots of good comments, lots of good conversation. What's up, Artie? Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Met you in Vegas. Good stuff, man. Yeah, catch it on the rewind. As Artie said, if you just came the last few minutes, a lot of nuggets, a lot of gems, a lot of diamonds, a lot of rough stuff, a lot of good stuff in this one. So everyone, we are out.